This is a video tutorial of Lesson 8 in the Roger Hudson guitar method. Starts on page 34. We're getting into the key of A minor. A minor has the same key signature as C major does, which means it has no sharps or flats. If you read with me on the top of page 34, minor scales follow a different interval pattern than major scales. Consequently, they give a different musical impression. Below are two common types of minor scales in the key of A minor. Now in this A minor scale, you're going to go up to the 5th fret, first string note, which is an A. So when you see that 4th finger on the scale, don't play a G sharp. You'll need to reach up and get that A, and then come back down. Here we go, scale of A minor, natural minor form. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next form of the minor scale that we're going to play is the harmonic minor form. The harmonic minor form has got a raised 7th scale degree, which in the key of A minor is a G sharp. So you'll have a G sharp here, you'll have a G sharp here, you also have a G sharp here. The G sharp allows for an E major chord to be played in the key of A minor, where normally there would be an E minor chord. If you used the notes in A natural minor and build a chord on E, you would come up with an E minor chord. So in the harmonic minor scale, a E major chord will be constructed if you start on E, G sharp and B. Here's an A harmonic minor scale, page 34. 1, 2, 3, 4. At the bottom of the page, we'll have our first study in A minor scale study number 1, page 34. At the top of page 35, we'll have an A minor scale study number 2. This one is going to be using the harmonic minor. And this is in 3/4 time. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, the next exercise on page 35 is Korobeiniki, which is a Russian folk song. I'll play the melody first for you, and then I'll play a choral accompaniment that you can play along with. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the accompaniment. 1, 2, 3, 4. Continuing on page 36, lesson 8, we have a traditional dance from Spain called Malagueña. There are lots of different pieces that are called Malagueña, and this is a version that I came up with that's based on the classic theme. This is a pretty easy piece to play if you keep your left hand fingers holding a chord, second finger fourth string, first finger a third string. Your right hand, similar to what we did in Asturias, is going to be P, M, P, M, P, M at the beginning of this, and the melody is in the bass part. So you'll be doing this sort of thing where you're playing a P bass note and then an alternating with a first string note. If you'll notice, you have three basic sections in Malagueña. You have the beginning, which is marked Allegro, which means lively or fast. The middle section is marked Adagio, which means slow. And Allegro once again at the end. So the beginning, the first two lines, are the same as the last two lines. So the piece is not as long as it looks. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and... If you'll notice in the middle, the Adagio section is very similar to what we did in counterpoint study. You need to make sure you hold down bass notes while the melody notes are playing. So for example, the third measure of the third line in the Adagio section, you'll have to play this F here, and then third finger's going to play this note while you're holding that first finger note down. So that's why you can't really use your first finger to play that C, which normally would be a first finger note. So make sure you hold down bass notes. On page 37, we have at the top of the page Study in A minor. Study in A minor has this left hand chord, the small, what I'll call the small A minor chord, similar to what we did in Igor's dance. So there's the A minor again. The pattern on the right hand will mostly be P, I, M, I, A, I, M, I, and then we'll have this P, M kind of movement, and then we'll also go back to this P, I, M, I, A, I, M, I, followed by another P, M. Okay, so that's the basic movement. At the bottom, you'll have a P-I-M-A, P-I-M-A, P-I-M-A over and over again. This is in 16th notes, so 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Bottom of page 37, we have a more developed version of the fig tree. This one's called the Fig Tree Grove. It has another section to it. Also make sure that you hold down bass notes while you're playing melody notes. This is also in 3/4 time. 1, 2, 3. Sorry about the dog scratching. At the top of page 38, we have another Old Spanish song called Spagnoletta. In this one, we're going to have to shift positions at measure 6. We'll have to go up here to what we call third position. The first finger will be over the 3rd fret, 4th string, and your 4th finger will be on the 1st string, 5th fret. You'll be playing the 1st finger note and the 4th finger note. Then you have to play that and then come back to first position. This one also has sort of a pickup measure, although it's has a rest on beat 1. So you'll be starting the piece on beat 2. Here we go, Spagnoletta. 1, 2, 3, 1. If you'll notice on the 3rd line, the second measure of the 3rd line, you'll see 2 notes that are sort of offset. One is a quarter note and one is a dotted half note. When you have the interval of a second, in this case A and B, it looks like you might play one before the other one, but you don't. You play them both at the same time. You'll see this a lot in music where there are chords. Certain notes that are, when they're right next to each other, like at A or B, B and C, if they're a second apart, they're played together. You can't stack them on top of each other, otherwise it would look like a big blob and you wouldn't be able to read it. The bottom of the page is Menuett, also in 3/4 time. This one starts out with the left hand fingers in that small A minor position. Once again, you'll be playing bass notes and melody notes, so make sure you hold down your bass notes. On page 39, we have a duet called Napoleon Crossing the Alps. It's an old Irish fiddle tune. This one has a pickup measure. It starts on beat 4 on guitar 1 part. This one sounds good if you do a little bit of a swing to it. Notice at the end of the second line you have a first ending, so it goes back to the beginning. Don't do the pickup again. The pickup will be in the ending itself, and then you'll go down, skip the first ending, and then play the second ending. Then at measure 10, you'll be going down to all the way to the bottom of the page, the first ending there. Then you go back to measure 10, and then you skip the first ending to end the piece. Here's Napoleon crossing the Alps, guitar 1 part. 1, 2, 3. Page 40, we're going to be getting into chords, chord symbols, and strum chords. Memorize these 10 basic chord shapes. These will give you a start on learning chords for strumming. There are many, many more chords to learn. Instead of showing the actual notes of a chord, chord symbols, for example, E, A minor, C, etc., are often used in jazz and popular music to indicate which chord should be played while another musician, or yourself, is singing or playing a melody. The shapes must be memorized in order to use them fluently. So you may have noticed in some music they will have the symbols, the chord symbols above maybe the lyrics of a song. You need to be able to recognize those chords when you see them. There won't be any, sometimes there won't be any notes, there won't be any tab. So when you see the, for example, AM, that's an A minor chord. So you need to be able to recognize those and play those instantly. So I gave you just 10 here that you could start with, these shapes. The first one is A minor. If you'll notice how the fingers are positioned here. The diagram, if you've never seen those before, is basically as if the guitar neck was up like this, and you're looking at the chord sort of sort of like this. So the lines, the vertical lines, will be strings going from the 6th string on the left-hand side to the 1st string on the right-hand side. The X at the top of the diagram will mean that you don't play that string. 0 will mean you do play that string. And if there's a dot, that means you are need to put your finger down on those frets and those strings. So the first one's A minor. Here's A minor. No 6th string. You play your 5th string and all the other strings. The next one is very similar. It looks like an A minor, but you need to move your fingers down here. E. Here's an E chord. no fourth finger on A minor or E. F is probably one of the most challenging chords for beginners. I recommend that you form the F by putting your third finger on the fourth string, second finger on the third string, and then do a bar. It's a bar of 2 strings. So you're holding down 2 strings with 1 finger. I would recommend that you try to do that and form your F that way, rather than trying to start with a bar and then putting a finger down here. And I think that's harder. I think that's a lot harder, and I think that you'll do better if you start off like this and then learn how to do it like that, the F chord. It probably took me a year before I got the F chord to where it sounded clear. So don't be discouraged about the F chord. You'll get it eventually. The next one is G. G is played a lot of different ways. I'm having you do it more in the way a classical guitarist or fingerstyle guitarist might play. G with the fourth finger here, second finger here, and third finger here. You play all the strings. Okay, the reason why I like it this way is because you can switch back and forth from G to C. You can also play little scales. A scale like that while holding the G. Some people play the G like this. If you're just strumming, that's another way to do it. But I would like for you to try to do it this way. The next one is C. A C chord. It looks like this. We did some of these when we were doing our 4-note block chords and arpeggios. These showed up. C was one of them. C, like this. D minor, that's another one that was in the 4-note block chords and arpeggios. Don't play the 5th string, don't play the 6th string. A D major chord has an F sharp. First finger here. There's a D major chord. A major chord. By the way, if there's just a letter name, that means it's a major chord. If there's a small M next to the letter, then that's a minor chord. This is A major. There are a lot of different ways to play an A major. Some people play the A major 1, 2, 3 like this. This is the way I have it listed in the book. Some people play it like this, 2, 3, 4. All 3 of those fingers are all on the same fret. Some people play it like this, which is what's called a hinge bar, where you're barring 2 strings, but the first string is free. All right. Anyway, you must have a C sharp in there to be an A major chord. The next one is E minor. E minor, second and third fingers on the same fret. No first finger, no fourth finger. They're on the 5th and 4th strings. E minor. And then there's D7. D7 has an F sharp, has a C, has an A, and has a D. A lot of times it's actually helpful to read the chord from the bass note up. When you need to sight read a chord, for example, if a bunch of notes are being played, block chord, then read from the bottom up, because that's how you will play it. Your bass note will be played first, so try to read up. So read up from the bottom. So the D7 chord, D, A, C, F sharp, like that. All right. In the middle of page 40, we have a chord slash notation. Chord slash notation is often used to indicate the rhythm patterns for strum chords. Downstroke and upstroke symbols indicate the direction of the strum. Chord symbols indicate the chords to be played. Chords may be strummed in a variety of ways, using I, like this, using P, or with a pick. If you're going to be doing a lot of strumming, you might want to just use a pick. If you're not going to be doing any fingerstyle sort of thing, a pick is probably the best tool for the job. But I use my index finger a lot of times for strumming sort of keep my right hand finger loose, my index finger down and up like this. I have a nail on the right hand. I have nails on the right hand, so I can use them as picks sometimes. So here we go. A minor downstroke. These are whole note strums. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now E upstroke. A minor down, down, quarter note. All right, let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. At the bottom of the page, it starts to get a little bit tricky with eighth note strums. Now, the thing that you need to keep in mind when you're strumming is that your right hand needs to continue to go up and down, up and down, up and down when you're strumming. No matter what the rhythm pattern is. Now, you may be wondering, well, how do I keep doing this when, if I'm trying to make it sound like this sort of a rhythm, for example. You can watch my right hand, it looks like I'm going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. It looks like I'm playing that. But it sounds like this. So what's happening? Well, what's happening is that sometimes when I'm coming up or down, I'm not actually hitting the strings. So it's very important that you learn how to do that. You can just experiment with it and begin to see how this works. The reason that we don't want to stop the hand is because the hand keeps a really good time, sort of like a conductor, or keeping the beat. If you try to do something like this, then it gets to be very, very inconsistent. So try to keep that right hand going down, up, down, up, down, up. Now, if you'll notice at the bottom of page 40, you'll have a quarter note strum at the second measure there on the E chord. So that means that when you come back up to hit the chord again for another downstroke, you're not going to hit the strings going up. See if you can kind of tell what's happening by this angle. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now you may have noticed that there's a tie in there. The tie, you can sort of treat that like it's a rest, the third measure there. So you'll have a strum on the A minor chord on the downbeat, miss the strings on the upbeat, 2, and then you're going to miss the string again, up, down, up. All right? Like that. So let me go slower this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Strumming takes some practice, so you need to make sure that you just try to experiment with it. Don't be too worried about making a lot of noise right now or that it's not too clean. You'll clean it up later. You'll get better at it. At the top of page 41, we have a little song that I wrote for my students that they have a lot of fun with. It's called Surfing Spanish Style. We have strumming in guitar 2, and we have a melody in guitar 1. And then a lot of times what we do is we have people take turns playing the melody or the accompaniment. So that if you were guitar 1 the first time through, then you switch it over to guitar 2 the second time. Try to do this without any break in the rhythm and the timing. I'll play the guitar 1 part for you to start with. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to play the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Surfing Spanish style, both parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. See you in lesson 9.